Welcome back to the Breathing Space podcast. I'm your host, Liz, a breathwork facilitator and fellow human being on this journey. If you've landed in this space, welcome, and this is the place to be, to hold and witness all parts of yourself. It's to reconnect with your needs, with your body, and using the breath to do that, so that you can develop and deepen this relationship and connection you have with yourself, and ultimately live life the way you want to live it. On today's episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about the human needs. Human needs are so important, and there's something that I don't think many of us take the time to really understand or connect with, even though they are what's fundamentally driving our behavior. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I do this? What's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing the same thing over and over and over again? Why can't I break this habit? The needs are going to explain that to you. Some of this behavior that we often judge is us just seeking to fulfill a need in the way our nervous system, our body knows how. Because a lot of this was programmed when we were quite young. And so we learned ways of meeting our needs as a child that might no longer be serving us, but they're still fundamentally meeting that need, and we haven't found a replacement for it yet. So this is things like if you're people-pleasing as a child, that met your need for connection, for safety, and so that's why you have these people-pleasing tendencies, and it's just no longer serving you now, because you can find other ways as a grown adult with resources and tools to meet that need instead. I'm going to go more in detail about the human needs, I'm going to say 8 human needs. There are subcategories of human needs, which I will do in future episodes of the podcast. This is part one of, I think it's going to be a 6-part series around the human needs. And so what are the human needs? Like I said, they're driving our behavior. That's how important they are. If you have a dysregulated nervous system, I know that's really big in the personal development industry. I believe that we get dysregulated when our needs are not being met. So to regulate our nervous system, we can have tools and practices like breathwork is great for this, to regulate ourselves in the moment. But if we want to stay regulated, we need to change our situation where our needs are being met so that we don't get dysregulated. So the first step is acknowledging the needs that are leading to dysregulation to begin with. And so what are the needs? The needs are, there's 6 according to Tony Robbins, which is where I base this largely off of because I did my coaching certification through his program. And I've added 2 more based on the work of Dr. Gabor Mate. So the first one, probably the one that drives most of our behavior to begin with, is, I think, foundational, which is safety. You need to feel safe. You need to have certainty. Another word for this is certainty. And so having certainty is, I have enough food to eat. I have a roof over my head. I can know that I'm going to be in a safe environment. I have a place to sleep. These are like basic human needs that unfortunately some of us don't have met. But if you think about when you don't have these basics met, how do you feel? Are you on edge? Are you constantly kind of looking over your shoulder? Are you able to make decisions? This is when we get super dysregulated. If I don't have food to eat on a regular basis, this is where maybe I have to steal to get my needs met because I need food. It's a foundational, one of the things I need to point out is that needs are not wants, they're not desires, these are needs. We must have them. So it's not that we judge these things. There's always a way of getting a need met. So if I don't have food, my basic need for certainty requires that I have to have food and drinking water. This is where I might steal to meet that need. And this is where I was saying about behaviors that we engage in to meet these needs, and maybe they're not what society wants, or they're not what we even want to be doing. I don't want to be a thief, but I'm motivated by my human needs. Now that is an extreme example, but I just wanted to point out that this is how foundational the needs are, and they are driving behavior. Whether we want to do that behavior or not, we are always going to either lie to ourselves to fulfill a need, we are going to engage in behavior to meet a need. Anything that we need to do to ensure that this need is met, we are going to make sure we do it. So the first one, for certainty, is so important. These are like the most basic human needs. If you're looking at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you need that first one of safety, of food, of water, of sleep. And if you're overworking yourself, you might not have the sleep that you need. This need for certainty, for this security, is not going to be met. That's the first one. Certainty also is like predictability. I can, like having a regular paycheck. I can rely upon things. I have people in my life that I can depend on. This is also certainty. And so when we have a lot of certainty, we have predictability. We can we know what's going to happen day to day. I have my routines in place. This is where a lot of people are driven by routines. It's this need for certainty. Then what happens? We get bored. And if we can predict everything and we're bored, we also have this need for variety or uncertainty. This is our second human need of the 8 human needs. And so we need to have something going on so we're not bored. This is where people can start acting out. Children act out. It's too boring, mundane. Or think of like a midlife crisis where you've been working at the same job for 40 years potentially. I'm thinking of like the stereotypical man who's going through a midlife crisis where he gets a fancy car or a motorcycle or a new girlfriend or something. He's been working at the same job potentially for 40 years. He's always done everything they were supposed to do. He has the wife, the house, the kids, and he's bored. And he's trying to discover, like, who am I? Let's do something new, something exciting. Or if you want to go on a vacation to somewhere different than where you are now, this could be that need for variety and uncertainty. You can see how these two needs are sometimes at odds with one another. This is where we go through these ups and downs too of I want everything to have a routine and certainty, and then I'm meeting that need for certainty, and then I need to break out of that routine, and that's the need for variety. So just starting to see the layers here of how these needs interact with one another. The third human need is for significance, to feel important, to feel worthy, to feel like somebody cares about me, that I'm worthwhile. Significance is the need that I think is easiest to spot. That's easiest to spot when it's not being met. I see it out in public all the time. If you go to a Walmart, for example, and you think you're at customer service, just go to a Walmart customer service and you will see someone's need for significance probably not being met. Because when you get there and they're trying to make a return, let's say, I see this all the time, which is why I'm sharing the example. They're trying to make a return and the sales associate is not listening to them or is saying they can't make the return or it's not possible or you need to have the receipt, sir, and they don't have the receipt and they're just not getting what they want. And they start yelling. They get angry. You can see it, visceral reaction. That is the lack of the need of of significance being met in that moment. They're not listening to me. They're not doing what I want. Why can't they just listen? Why can't they just pay attention? Like, that is that need for significance. And when you see people getting really angry, it's often this need for significance, because if this is a lot to do with boundaries as well and something being violated for you, and that's where you react out of anger. So that's the need for significance, to feel like, hey, people are listening to me, they pay attention, I'm important, I'm special, I'm unique. And again, if I were to go like, oh, special snowflake, no, these are needs. These are not wants. we do fundamentally need to know that we are important and that people care for us and that we are special. So much of, like, I see people with tattoos and piercings, and part of that, from my understanding, is this need for significance. Hey, look at me, I'm different. Or not even with like permanently changing your body with a tattoo, with unique hairstyles, different brightly colored hair, kind of like the peacocking, or like emo makeup. I remember when I was in high school, it's like setting yourself apart from other people through your physical appearance. That's also the need for significance, to be different, you know? And so this is where I'm giving as many examples as I try and explain this to show how these needs can show up. They show up in different ways for every single person, and I'll talk about this later, about human needs. We all have different ways of meeting the same human need. So if I meet my human need for significance through volunteering, for example, because I feel important, I'm giving back to others. Whereas that could be the human need, the next one I'm going to talk about, human need number 4, connection, could also be met through volunteering rather than significance. It's like, oh, I get to meet other people who are doing interesting things or like-minded to me. I feel super connected. Could meet both needs at the same time. So connection is the next human need, or the need for love, you can think of it. I think this is probably one of the easiest ones to understand, the need for connection and love, because I think we all want that. And that's what's motivating a lot of our behavior, to feel connected, to feel part of a community and this is sometimes at odds, again, with the significance, because if I'm significant, I'm the most important person in the room. When we take that need to its extreme end, there's no room for connecting with another person. So these two can kind of be at odds. And if you've been in a relationship where you want to connect with the other person and your needs are you're a little wobbly on your boundaries, this is what's kind of being at play here. You want to connect with others and you want to be true to yourself and your boundaries that give you a sense of significance because it's important to you. So this is how the two can kind of play at odds with each other. So we got the first 4 human needs for certainty or safety, we can say, of variety or uncertainty. Number 2. Number 3 is significance. Number 4 is connection. These are kind of our basic needs. And then the next 2 I'm going to talk about, and what Tony Robbins calls also the spiritual needs. And so these needs are for growth. I've always thought, if you're not growing, you're dying. To be learning new things, to be kind of stimulated intellectually, to see improvements, to make progress, to have a goal that you're working towards. Because think about it, if you don't have that, we often end up feeling lost. We feel confused. We start questioning what we're doing in our lives. So we need something to work towards. And that'll be a different goal for everyone. Could be starting a new business, could be making a whole bunch of money, could be learning a new skill. It could be various things. And this is an important human need because think about when we're growing, we often are doing new things. The growth is outside of the comfort zone, trying something new. That's variety right there. Can also give us significance because, hey, look, I'm doing something new. I'm learning a new skill. I feel really good about myself. It gives us that sense of importance. It can be connecting. If I'm trying something new, I could be connecting with other like-minded individuals. Usually these spiritual needs meet multiple needs at once rather than just one when we're fulfilling them. And the other spiritual need is the need for contribution. And so this is, again, to give back, to be a respected member of your community perhaps, to want to do something outside of yourself. And this, again, like that volunteering example, could be this need for contribution. You get connection through it. You get significance through it. You get variety potentially, or certainty potentially. All of these things, the spiritual needs really encompass multiple of the other needs as well. Because when we're contributing, we feel good about ourselves. We get to make a mark. We get to have a purpose greater than ourselves. And so these are really foundational, important human needs. Those are the 6 basic human needs. And the other 2 that I want to contribute from the work of Dr. Gabor Mate is the need for authenticity and the need for attachment. So authenticity is also kind of linked to significance, but it's really being true to yourself, which I see is also a more spiritual need. So authenticity is showing up as your true self, doing things that are in alignment with who you are, making choices based on kind of what your soul, your spirituality is saying, the sense of knowing, of being you, and feeling seen and heard and understood for who you are. Again, this is similar to significance. And the other human need, our last one, number 8, is this attachment. This one is really, it's also connection, but it's more in the early years of our lives, attachment, a sense of community and connection. So attachment is also sometimes at odds with authenticity. Again, this one is more, attachment is like a parent's or a caregiver's attachment to you when you're younger is going to influence how your brain develops. Look into the work of Dr. Gabor Mate, The Myth of Normal, or what's his other book that I read? In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. It has to do with alcoholism and addiction. And he really talks about it in how it forms the brain development, to know that you have this attachment, this connection with another human being. So again, very much related to connection, but I kind of focus on this one from a younger age. It is at odds often, especially when we're children, like I started at the beginning of this episode, with our need for authenticity. Because to be attached, if we foundationally need this need must be met. And if we don't have this need met, our very survival could be at risk as a child, as a baby. If we don't have the attention, the love, the nurturance of our caregiver, then we won't survive. And so this is where some of the little people-pleasing, the lack of boundaries originates from. Because when you're a child, you don't have a choice but to do what's going to get your needs met by your parents. They're the ones who are giving you resources. They're the ones that are providing your shelter and your food and everything, your safety. They're responsible for this. And so you'll do anything in your power to remain attached to them, to remain connected to them, even if that means sacrificing your own authentic expression of your feelings, opinions, emotions. And that's where these two can kind of get at odds. So these two are more authenticity, I would like to say, like, really arises when you're a teenager, when you start to have that ability to think for yourself, to fend for yourself, essentially. Like, you could get a job, you have independence, you can drive. This is where authenticity, like you see teenagers acting out, they're trying to establish who they authentically are. And so when we look at like childhood development, in the younger years, attachment is super important. And there are times where authenticity comes out, like when a child developmentally realizes that they're a separate entity from their parents, and this is where they really start saying no to everything. So that's where, okay, this is their authentic, they're experimenting with their authenticity from a developmental point of view. But it really takes off, in my opinion, in the teenage years. And so this is kind of that push and pull between attachment and authenticity, and which need are you prioritizing at any given time? Because like I've said throughout this, many of the needs are sometimes at odds with one another, and which one do you prioritize? Now, Tony Robbins, he believes that every individual has two needs that kind of take priority over the others in individuals. I don't necessarily agree with that all the needs are important. He says operationally, the needs can, like for some people, they think that contribution and connection are the most important needs to them, but operationally, like in their subconscious and their nervous system, it's really certainty that's running the show. So this is where we get to kind of explore for ourselves, how are our needs being met? What meets your need for certainty? What meets your need for variety? What meets your need for like each one of these? And what doesn't meet that? I'm going to have another episode where I talk about sustainable versus unsustainable ways of meeting these needs. But I just want to have a general idea right now of how do these needs show up in your life? Like, what is guaranteed to violate to really get your need for significance to the forefront? What makes you angry is usually going to be the thing that makes this super clear. So for each of these needs, you're going to have certain emotions associated with it. I just keep coming back to significance and anger because I have yet to meet a person who didn't have some sort of anger come up when their need for significance was violated. But things like certainty, you might have a word like safety for it. You might have a word like peacefulness for it, because when everything is like, you know what's going on, it could be very calm, very peaceful. I can be at ease when my need for certainty is met. So starting to think about, like, when you have these needs met, how do you feel? When these needs are not met, how do you feel? Because if your need for certainty isn't being met, instead of feeling calm, peaceful, and at ease, maybe you're really stressed, you're anxious, you've got racing thoughts. That's the opposite. And when you start to notice how I feel when they're met versus not met, when certain feelings come up, you can kind of reverse engineer it to realize what need is not met yet. And we'll get into, but maybe you want to think about which needs are most important to you. And not the ones that you think, because for me, I can tell you when I started learning about the needs years ago, and I actually have taught courses about the human needs, and maybe I'll launch a course in the future. I always thought that my top need was the need for growth. I mean, I became a coach, and I'm in the personal growth and development kind of industry, and so it was very much grow, which can also be unsustainable because it can violate your need for connection because you can grow beyond people, or anything that gets in the way of your growth has to go. So this is, again, that's an unsustainable way of meeting your need. And I'm going to do an episode on sustainable versus unsustainable. I thought growth was the thing that was driving me. It's why I went and traveled the world, and I wanted to see new things, and I wanted to spend all this money on personal development and take these courses and, learn breath work and grow. My Instagram account was at one point called Watch Liz Grow. Watch Liz Go, but I'm growing. I thought it was so funny. I still like that name, I'm not going to lie. But operationally, that's what my brain said. That's what my rational mind was yeah, you're growth oriented, look at you go. But really, it's this push and pull between certainty, because when I grow too much too fast too soon is also the definition of trauma, by the way. Yeah, I'm just a little bit traumatizing myself here with all this growth, because I'm so far out of my comfort zone, I'm now violating this need for certainty. The comfort zone is the need for certainty. And so when people say about getting outside the comfort zone, you can, but you don't want to go so far outside the comfort zone that it completely violates your need for certainty, because again, that need for certainty, like I said, was this at ease, this peace, this calm. I want to experience those feelings. I don't want to be anxious and stressed all the time. And when I get outside my comfort zone, when I'm growing, it downplays this need for certainty. And so this is where those feelings of stress, anxiety, panic even can come from. This is for me at least. This is what I've experienced myself and with many of my clients. And so we need to be straddling this balance. And once you understand the human needs, it really starts to put into perspective, like when I'm feeling a certain way, what need am I meeting? Am I not meeting? And when we start looking at it like that, you can start, okay, I'm angry. All right, the need for significance maybe. It's a boundary. I didn't set a boundary, I didn't communicate a boundary, or a boundary has been violated that I've set. And that's why I'm angry, because if they don't listen to my boundaries, they don't care about me, and I feel insignificant. So understanding that, it really brings clarity around and takes away the judgment of, why am I feeling this way? Like, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this? Because we will do anything to get a need met, and we will react strongly if our needs are being violated. And so when we know that, no need to judge how I'm reacting anymore. I can instead understand it. I can understand, all right, I'm feeling this way. What need isn't being met? How can I then go meet this need? So that's the basics of the human needs. I would encourage you to share this with whoever you think could really benefit from understanding the human needs, which I think is everyone. So just go and share this with someone, because this is the thing that really changed my life. It started this whole personal growth and development thing for me in my quest of reconnecting with myself, in my quest of understanding myself. The needs are still what underpins it all for me. And it underpins how I understand and interact with other people. Because I've been focusing here on this episode about your own human needs. And this is how we need to understand it fundamentally for ourselves and feel embodied in our own needs. And then we can start understanding the needs of others. And then, this is where relationally it gets really juicy, because when I understand others' needs and my own needs, it's like now we're working to find a way to meet both of our needs at the same time. And that can be really a really good opportunity for growth and communication. Because if I don't know what's going on with me and my needs, I can't communicate that. And if my partner doesn't know what's going on with their needs, maybe you want to send this to your partner or listen to it together and start figuring out how you both meet your own needs and how they show up in your life, then we can't make a compromise. We can't set a boundary between each other, because a boundary is an invitation to have someone help you meet your need in a sustainable way. This is why we get to know our own human needs, we get to understand other people, and then we get to understand their behavior and how to communicate with them and how to interact with each other in a way that feels fulfilling, and it's super powerful. So go listen to this again. Go start thinking about, how do these human needs show up in your life? So the 8 human needs again, they're for certainty, 1, 2, uncertainty, 3, significance, 4, love and connection, 5, growth, 6, contribution, 7, authenticity, and 8, attachment. How is that showing up in your life? And if attachment is also related to attachment styles. So I'll do another episode on that, the human needs and attachment styles. If you have anything else you want to hear from me, head over to my Instagram @spacebreathwork. Send me some questions. If you have any questions about human needs, I'm here. Let me know. I'm going to start producing more content about it, because it really is so foundational to understanding who you are, how you show up in the world, and how you relate to others, and to release that judgment of why am I doing this? Why do I feel this way? Why doesn't this feel good? Come back to your needs. Ask yourself these questions. Find ways of meeting your needs. And listen to next week's episode, where I'll be talking about sustainable versus unsustainable needs, because we all have ways of meeting these needs. Sometimes they're going to not be the healthiest. I don't like to say healthy though, not be the best, not be good. That's an unsustainable way of meeting your need. So I'm going to go more deeply into that. All right. So come follow me on Instagram at Space Breathwork, or check out the Breathing Space Substack. And if you want to go deeper into this, if you wanted to explore your own needs, you can book a one-to-one call with me, spacebreathwork.com, or the link in the description down below. I'll be happy to help you in sorting through your human needs, in connecting with them in an embodied way, getting out of our heads and getting back into our body. That'll be a future episode as well. How to embody your needs. All right. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next Wednesday.